The United States of America half-dollar 1776 to 1976 is one of the most recognizable modern commemorative circulation coins ever issued by the United States Mint. Struck to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence, this special bicentennial half-dollar honors the historic signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Although the coin bears the dual date, 1776 to 1976, it was actually minted in 1975 and 1976, as no half-dollars dated 1975 were produced. This dual date symbolizes 2 centuries of American history, linking the founding era to the modern United States of the 1970s, a period marked by patriotic celebration, reflection on national identity, and renewed interest in early American heritage. The obverse front of the coin continues the long-standing portrait of President John F. Kennedy, whose likeness first appeared on the half-dollar in 1964 shortly after his assassination. Designed originally by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts, Kennedy's portrait faces left, presenting a dignified and idealized image of the late president. Above his head appears the inscription Liberty, while the national motto, In God We Trust, is inscribed below his chin. The dual date, 1776 to 1976, is displayed prominently beneath the portrait, replacing the usual single-year date. The continued use of Kennedy's image reflects his enduring legacy and the emotional connection Americans maintained with him even more than a decade after his death. The bicentennial redesign did not alter the obverse portrait, preserving continuity with previous issues while allowing the reverse to carry the commemorative theme. The reverse back of the bicentennial half-dollar is what makes this coin especially distinctive. Instead of the traditional presidential seal reverse used from 1964 through 1974, the design features Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the building where both the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution were debated and adopted. This reverse was designed by Seth G. Huntington, whose design was selected through a national competition organized by the Treasury Department. Independence Hall is depicted in detailed architectural engraving, with the building centered and balanced to emphasize its historic dignity. Above the building appears the inscription, United States of America, while below it is the denomination, half-dollar. The motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, appears to the right of the building. This Latin phrase, long associated with the Great Seal of the United States, symbolizes the unity of the original 13 colonies into one nation and continues to reflect the diversity and unity of the American people. The phrase, In God We Trust, on the obverse is the official national motto of the United States. Although the phrase appeared on certain U.S. coins as early as the Civil War era, it was officially adopted as the national motto in 1956. Its placement on the bicentennial half-dollar reinforces the spiritual and cultural values many Americans associate with the country's founding principles. Together with liberty and E pluribus unum, the coin carries 3 powerful mottos that summarize central ideals of American identity: freedom, faith, and unity. From a technical standpoint, the bicentennial half-dollar was minted in both copper-nickel clad composition for circulation and in a special 40% silver clad composition for collectors. The standard circulating version contains an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its silvery appearance. The 40% silver version, produced primarily for collectors, contains a silver-clad outer layer bonded to a copper core with additional silver content, resulting in an overall composition of 40% silver. These silver versions were sold in special bicentennial proof and uncirculated sets. The coin weighs approximately 11.34 grams in clad form and slightly more in silver composition, with a diameter of 30.6 millimeters and a reeded edge. Production of the bicentennial half-dollar took place at 3 mint facilities: Philadelphia Mint, Denver Mint, and San Francisco Mint. Coins from Philadelphia bear no mint mark for this period. Denver coins display a D, and San Francisco issues carry an S. The San Francisco Mint primarily produced the silver-clad proof and uncirculated collector versions, though it also struck some clad-proof coins. Millions upon millions of bicentennial half-dollars were minted, making them common in circulated condition today. Despite their commemorative nature, they were produced for general circulation and thus do not usually carry high monetary value unless in exceptional uncirculated or proof condition. Historically, the bicentennial coinage program included not only the half-dollar but also special reverse designs for the quarter and dollar coins. The program represented a coordinated national celebration of 200 years of independence. During the mid-1970s, patriotic events, parades, educational programs, and historical reenactments took place across the country. The coinage served both as practical currency and as small, portable reminders of the nation's milestone anniversary. Many Americans saved bicentennial coins as souvenirs, believing they might become rare or valuable in the future. Although most remain worth face value, their sentimental and historical value remains significant. Artistically, the depiction of Independence Hall connects the coin directly to Philadelphia, often called the birthplace of American democracy. The building itself is preserved today as part of Independence Hall within Independence National Historical Park. Its inclusion on the coin highlights the importance of physical places in American collective memory. By placing this landmark on a circulating coin, the Mint ensured that millions of Americans would encounter an image of the founding site in their everyday transactions. In terms of collecting, the 1776 to 1976 half-dollar is widely collected by both beginners and experienced numismatists. Collectors often seek examples in high mint state grades or deep cameo-proof condition. The 40% silver issues are particularly attractive to collectors interested in precious metal content. While the coin is not rare, complete sets including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues in both clad and silver varieties can be enjoyable to assemble. In summary, the United States of America half-dollar 1776 to 1976 stands as a powerful tribute to 2 centuries of national history. Through its enduring portrait of John F. Kennedy, its depiction of Independence Hall, and its inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, the coin encapsulates core American ideals and historical memory. Produced by the United States Mint during a time of patriotic celebration, it remains a tangible connection to the bicentennial spirit of 1976. Though common in circulation, its symbolism, artistry, and historical context ensure its lasting importance in American numismatics and cultural heritage. The next top. The United States of America half-dollar 1973 D is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, a coin that reflects both American history and modern minting developments. This coin was struck in 1973 at the United States Mint facility in Denver Mint, which is identified by the small d mint mark located on the obverse below the truncation of President Kennedy's neck. The 1973 D half-dollar carries the familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, whose image first appeared on the half-dollar in 1964 shortly after his assassination, replacing Benjamin Franklin on the denomination. The obverse design was created by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse was designed by Assistant Engraver Frank Asparo. Together, their work produced one of the most recognizable coin designs in modern American numismatics. On the obverse of the 1973 D half-dollar, Kennedy's left-facing profile dominates the field. The word Liberty appears along the top rim, partially separated by the president's head. The national motto, In God We Trust, is inscribed below his chin and above the date, 1973. The portrait itself is based on a medal that Roberts had previously prepared for Kennedy's presidential inauguration. The design captures Kennedy with a calm, resolute expression, symbolizing leadership and youthful energy. The inclusion of In God We Trust reflects its status as the official national motto of the United States, adopted in 1956, though it had appeared on coins since the Civil War era. This motto expresses the historical reliance on faith that many Americans associate with the nation's identity and moral foundation. The reverse of the 1973 D half-dollar features a heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal of the United States. This powerful image shows an eagle with outstretched wings, clutching an olive branch in its right talon, and a bundle of arrows in its left, symbolizing peace and readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head is a cluster of stars representing the original 13 colonies. Around the top rim appears the inscription, United States of America, and below the eagle is the denomination, $50. The Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, is displayed on a banner above the eagle's head. This phrase emphasizes the unity of the states into one nation, a central concept in American political philosophy. Gasparo's reverse design is bold and symmetrical, giving the coin a formal and authoritative appearance that reflects the dignity of the presidency. By 1973, the $50 was no longer widely used in everyday commerce. Although millions were minted, the denomination had fallen out of regular circulation after the mid-1960s coin shortages and the public's tendency to save Kennedy $50 as keepsakes. The Coinage Act of 1965 had removed silver from most circulating coins, and by 1970, when the $50 was converted entirely to a copper-nickel clad composition. The 1973 $50 is therefore composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs approximately 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Unlike earlier 1964 issues, which were 90% silver, or the 1965 to 1970 issues, which contained 40% silver, the 1973 contains no silver at all. An interesting historical detail about the 1973 $50 series is that the coins were struck primarily for collectors rather than for general circulation. In fact, 1970 to 1974 $50 were not released in large quantities for everyday banking channels. Instead, many were included in mint sets sold directly to collectors. As a result, while the mintage figures are substantial, relatively few examples experienced heavy circulation wear. This means that uncirculated examples are fairly common today. The Denver Mint struck millions of 1973 $50, making them readily available to collectors at modest prices, typically close to face value unless found in exceptionally high mint state grades. The Denver Mint has played a major role in American coin production since its establishment in 1906 as a branch mint. Coins bearing the D mint mark are often associated with strong strikes and slightly different die characteristics compared to those struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which in 1973 produced $50 without a mint mark. Differences between mint facilities can include subtle variations in luster, strike sharpness, and die wear patterns, factors that advanced collectors examine carefully. From a numismatic perspective, collectors of the Kennedy $50 series often seek high-grade 1973 coins graded MS 65 or higher by professional grading services. In such grades, the coin exhibits sharp details in Kennedy's hair above the ear and well-defined feathers on the eagle's wings. Proof versions of the 1973 $50 were struck at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark, featuring mirror-like fields and frosted devices, but the 1973 D specifically refers to the Denver business strike version. Culturally, the Kennedy $50 represents more than just currency. It stands as a memorial to a president whose life and leadership left a deep mark on the American consciousness. The decision by the United States Congress to replace the Franklin $50 with Kennedy's image was made rapidly in late 1963, demonstrating the profound national grief following his assassination. By 1973, the coin had already become a lasting tribute, circulating for nearly a decade. Today, the 1973 $50 remains a popular entry point for new collectors because of its affordability and historical significance. Although it does not contain silver and is not rare, it provides an accessible example of modern American minting technology and presidential iconography. Its inscriptions, Liberty, In God We Trust, and E pluribus unum, collectively summarize key American ideals, freedom, faith, and unity. The eagle on the reverse reinforces themes of strength and sovereignty, while Kennedy's portrait evokes leadership and national aspiration. In conclusion, the United States of America 1973 $50 is a copper-nickel-clad coin struck at the Denver Mint as part of the enduring Kennedy $50 series. Designed by Gilroy Roberts and Frank Gasparo, it features a dignified portrait of President John F. Kennedy, and a heraldic eagle reverse with national mottos. Though common and generally worth face value in circulated condition, it remains historically meaningful as a symbol of remembrance, national identity, and the evolution of American coinage in the post-silver era. The next top. The United States of America half-dollar 1978 is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, a denomination that has served not only as currency, but also as a national memorial. Issued by the United States Mint, the 1978 half-dollar continues the design first introduced in 1964 to honor John F. Kennedy following his assassination in November 1963. By 1978, the coin had already been in production for 14 years, and although half-dollars were no longer widely used in daily commerce, they remained an important part of U.S. coinage history and collector interest. The 1978 issue was struck for circulation at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, bearing a D mint mark, while proof versions were produced at the San Francisco Mint with an S mint mark. The obverse of the 1978 half-dollar features the left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy. This design was created by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts, based on a medal he had prepared for Kennedy's 1961 presidential inauguration. The portrait presents Kennedy in a dignified and idealized style, with carefully sculpted hair detail and a strong profile that symbolizes leadership and resolve. Around the top edge of the coin appears the word Liberty, partially encircling the head. Below Kennedy's chin is the inscription "In God We Trust," the official national motto of the United States since 1956. The date, 1978, appears at the bottom of the obverse, and if the coin was minted in Denver, the small d mint mark is visible near the truncation of the neck. The placement of "In God We Trust" reflects both historical tradition and national identity, as the motto has appeared on various U.S. coins since the Civil War era and signifies the country's long-standing cultural reference to faith and trust in divine guidance. The reverse design, created by assistant engraver Frank Gasparo, features a heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal of the United States. The eagle is shown with wings spread wide, holding an olive branch in its right talon and a bundle of arrows in its left. The olive branch symbolizes peace, while the arrows represent readiness to defend the nation. Above the eagle's head is a ring of stars, representing the original 13 colonies. The inscription "United States of America" curves along the upper rim, while half-dollar appears along the lower rim. The Latin motto "E pluribus unum," meaning "out of many one," is inscribed on a banner above the eagle. This phrase captures the essence of American unity, the coming together of individual states into one federal union, and remains a foundational idea within American civic philosophy. Gasparo's reverse is symmetrical and formal, giving the coin a sense of authority and tradition that complements the presidential portrait on the obverse. By 1978, the half-dollar was composed entirely of copper-nickel clad metal, a composition adopted after silver was removed from circulating coinage due to rising bullion prices in the 1960s. The 1978 half-dollar consists of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs approximately 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and features a reeded edge. Unlike the original 1964 Kennedy half-dollars, which were struck in 90% silver, and the 1965 to 1970 issues, which contained 40% silver, the 1978 version contains no precious metal. This change reflects broader economic adjustments in American coinage policy during the mid-20th century. Although minted in significant numbers, the 1978 half-dollar did not circulate heavily. By the late 1970s, Americans rarely used half-dollars in everyday transactions, preferring quarters and dollar bills for convenience. Many 1978 half-dollars were stored in bank vaults or saved by collectors in mint sets. As a result, uncirculated examples are relatively common today. The United States Congress had authorized continued production of the denomination, but public demand remained limited. Still, the Kennedy half-dollar maintained symbolic importance as a tribute to a fallen president and as a familiar representation of national ideals. Proof versions struck at the San Francisco Mint are especially valued by collectors for their mirror-like surfaces and sharply frosted design elements. These coins were sold in annual proof sets and were never intended for circulation. Business strike coins from Philadelphia and Denver typically display standard mint luster, though strike quality can vary. Collectors often examine details such as the sharpness of Kennedy's hair above the ear and the clarity of the eagle's feathers to determine grade. High-grade specimens certified by professional grading services can command modest premiums, but most circulated examples remain worth face value. The inscriptions on the 1978 half-dollar, Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, together communicate enduring principles of the United States, freedom, faith, and unity. These mottos link the coin not only to contemporary America of the late 1970s, but also to the nation's founding era. During this period, the country was emerging from the political and social turbulence of the Vietnam War and Watergate, seeking renewed confidence and stability. The continued presence of Kennedy's portrait symbolized youthful optimism and forward-looking leadership, values that resonated strongly even 15 years after his presidency. In the broader scope of American numismatics, the 1978 half-dollar represents continuity rather than change. Unlike the bicentennial issues of 1976, which featured special reverse designs, the 1978 coin retains the standard heraldic eagle reverse introduced in 1964. This stability in design reinforces the coin's identity as a memorial piece rather than a temporary commemorative issue. Over time, the Kennedy half-dollar has become one of the longest-running portrait coin series in U.S. history, second only to the Lincoln cent in continuous depiction of a single individual. In conclusion, the United States of America half-dollar 1978 is a copper-nickel clad coin issued by the United States Mint featuring the portrait of President John F. Kennedy and a heraldic eagle reverse designed by Gilroy Roberts and Frank Gasparo. Bearing the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, the coin embodies Central American ideals while serving as a lasting tribute to the 35th president. Though not rare and generally valued at face amount in circulated condition, it remains historically and symbolically significant, representing both modern American coinage and the enduring legacy of John F. Kennedy, the next top. The United States of America half-dollar 1992 D is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, a denomination that has served as both circulating currency and a lasting memorial to John F. Kennedy. Struck in 1992 at the Denver Mint, the coin bears the D Mint mark on the obverse, just below the truncation of Kennedy's neck. It was produced by the United States Mint during a period when half-dollars were no longer widely used in everyday transactions, but were still minted annually for collectors, casino use, and limited banking demand. By the early 1990s, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been in continuous production for nearly 3 decades, having first appeared in 1964 shortly after Kennedy's assassination, when the United States Congress authorized replacing the Franklin half-dollar with a design honoring the fallen president. The obverse of the 1992 D half-dollar features the familiar left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts. Roberts based the portrait on a medal he had prepared for Kennedy's 1961 presidential inauguration, adapting it for coinage in a way that conveyed dignity, strength, and youthful resolve. Kennedy's profile dominates the coin's surface, with finely detailed hair and a calm, composed facial expression. Around the top rim appears the word Liberty, partially encircling the head. Beneath the chin is the national motto, In God We Trust, and at the bottom is the date, 1992. The Denver Mint mark D appears to the right of the date near the neckline. The phrase, In God We Trust, officially adopted as the national motto in 1956, reflects a tradition dating back to the Civil War era, when the motto first appeared on U.S. coinage. Its inclusion on the 1992 D half-dollar reinforces the long-standing connection between American coinage and national values rooted in faith and moral conviction. The reverse design, created by assistant engraver Frank Gasparo, features a heraldic eagle based on the presidential seal of the United States. The eagle spreads its wings in a bold and symmetrical composition, clutching an olive branch in its right talon to symbolize peace and a bundle of arrows in its left to symbolize readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head appears a circle of stars representing the original 13 colonies. The inscription United States of America curves along the top rim, while $50 is inscribed along the bottom. The Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, is placed on a banner above the eagle's head. This phrase emphasizes the unity of the states into a single nation and has been associated with the Great Seal since the nation's founding. Gasparo's reverse design conveys authority, stability, and continuity, complementing the solemn portrait of Kennedy on the obverse. The 1992 D $50 is composed of a copper-nickel clad alloy, the standard composition for circulating $50 since 1971. The coin consists of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs approximately 11.34 grams, has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters, and features a reeded edge. By 1992, silver had long been removed from circulating $50 due to rising precious metal prices decades earlier. However, 1992 marked a significant development in the series. It was the first year that the United States Mint introduced special 90% silver-proof Kennedy $50 again, sold as part of commemorative silver-proof sets. These silver proofs were struck at the San Francisco Mint and carried an S Mint mark, distinguishing them from the standard copper-nickel circulation strikes like the 1992 D. This reintroduction of silver for collectors reflected growing numismatic interest and nostalgia for earlier silver coinage. In terms of mintage, the 1992 D $50 was produced primarily for inclusion in annual mint sets and limited commercial distribution. By the early 1990s, $50 were not commonly encountered in pocket change, as the public preferred quarters and dollar bills for daily transactions. Consequently, many 1992 D coins remained in uncirculated condition from the moment of issue. For collectors, this means high-grade examples are relatively accessible. However, coins exhibiting exceptional strike quality, strong luster, and minimal contact marks can command premiums when certified in mint state grades such as MS 66 or higher. The broader historical context of 1992 adds further perspective. The United States was experiencing political transition during an election year that would soon bring new leadership to the presidency. The enduring presence of Kennedy's image on the $50 symbolized continuity amid change, reminding Americans of a president often associated with optimism, public service, and national aspiration. Nearly 30 years after his death, Kennedy's portrait remained a powerful emblem of 20th-century American history. The inscriptions on the 1992 D $50, Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum encapsulate foundational American ideals. Liberty reflects the core principle upon which the nation was established. In God We Trust expresses a long-standing acknowledgement of spiritual faith within national life. E Pluribus Unum affirms unity among diverse states and peoples. Together, these mottos transform the coin from a simple monetary instrument into a compact statement of national philosophy. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1992 D $50 represents both tradition and subtle transition. While the overall design remained unchanged from earlier decades, the year marked the beginning of renewed silver-proof production for collectors. It also reflected the evolving role of the $50 denomination, less a practical medium of exchange, and more a collectible and commemorative issue. Despite its limited circulation, the coin maintains historical significance as part of one of the most enduring portrait series in American coinage. In conclusion, the United States of America $50 1992 D is a copper-nickel clad coin struck at the Denver Mint, featuring the portrait of President John F. Kennedy by Gilroy Roberts and the heraldic eagle reverse by Frank Gasparo. Bearing the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, it continues the legacy of the Kennedy $50 series as a tribute to the 35th president and as a reflection of enduring American ideals. Though generally valued at face amount in circulated condition, it holds lasting importance for collectors and historians as part of the evolving story of modern United States coinage.